From the KELOLAND Digital Desk, I'm meteorologist Scott Mundt. This is Weather or Not for Tuesday, February 3rd. As we do take a look at what's going on for today on Futurecast, we hold our cloud cover in eastern South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa, much like what we had yesterday when we had mostly cloudy skies. A couple of flurries, snow showers move through during the afternoon, even heading into the evening. We can see the same thing again today with flurries, snow showers into eastern and northeastern South Dakota. Difference today from yesterday for western KELOLAND, clouds will be thicker, and we're watching for rain showers as we get into the afternoon. So it will not be as warm where we had temperatures in the 50s to near 60 degrees in parts of western KELOLAND. Not as warm today due to the thicker cloud cover and a couple of rain showers that will dot the landscape across western South Dakota. And I say dot the landscape because moisture is very, very limited. So there's Futurecast at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. As we do get into the overnight, we'll still hold this flurry, snow shower chance for just about everybody. But again, being flurries, periods of snow showers moving through, the accumulations will stay very, very light. If any accumulation at all, it will be less than a half inch. And we can start the day tomorrow with these flurries and snow showers in the eastern and southeastern KELOLAND. You see that on Futurecast during the morning. And I really think that the clouds will probably hold throughout much of the day for eastern South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa. Better chance for sunshine tomorrow. Western, eventually in the central South Dakota, those clouds will erode from west to east. But right now, I would say just count on cloud cover for many east of the James River Valley for tomorrow. Better chance for sunshine. That returns on Thursday. Winds will increase from the west and northwest. We could see wind gusts anywhere from 20, 30 miles per hour or more. Help mix up this atmosphere, bring in some warmer temperatures with Pacific air overhead. In fact, we're watching Thursday's numbers, and I think I talk about this coming up a little bit later on. But the numbers on Thursday for many will probably end up being in a top 5 for that date. And Rapid City right now, downtown Rapid City, we're forecasting 68. Their existing record for Thursday is 67. So we are forecasting a record high in Rapid City. We've seen some information suggesting temperatures will be in the 70s for parts of western South Dakota. In the meantime, for today, we'll have northwest wind, once again, much like yesterday in western KELOLAND. Light winds, central eastern South Dakota. That's a look at midday as we go 3 hours ahead and 3 o'clock this afternoon. Looking at northwest winds, gusts to 30 miles per hour in and around Rapid City. Remaining light, central eastern KELOLAND. That continues right into the evening. We'll see what happens in the western South Dakota. I did see some information this morning as we hit maybe around midnight or just a little bit after midnight. We could see some of those wind gusts maybe approach 35, 40 across western South Dakota. It will be a quick hit of some stronger wind, and then that will die down. And you can see as we get into the evening at 9 o'clock, we may get a couple of those wind gusts across eastern South Dakota, around 15 miles per hour. That's something that we can still handle. Forecast for today showing temperatures in the 20s to near 30 degrees, real close to our climate average highs. We'll continue to follow flurries, maybe a snow shower or two across eastern South Dakota. 41 today in Pierre and western South Dakota. High temperature near 50 in Rapid City, getting up to 48. Keep in mind that northwest wind, 15 to 30 miles per hour. And again, there may be a couple of rain showers across western South Dakota. Teens and 20s for overnight lows tonight. We'll have light winds, western KELOLAND. That's a different situation there. I mentioned the stronger winds, and a good average tonight will be 15 to 25. And that forecast tomorrow, temperatures will be in the 20s, 30s, still holding to mostly cloudy skies for many across eastern KELOLAND. Better chance for the sunshine, western and central South Dakota, with a high temperature at around 50 in Rapid City, 41 in Pierre. And our winds will be light, 5 to 15 miles per hour. It's for Thursday that the winds do increase from the northwest. Along with that, we'll bring in that mild air. And that's something that we have highlighted here on today's show. We'll talk more about that warmth. Also, take a look at what February usually brings to Sioux Falls. And, of course, have our pattern go out about a week and a half to 2 weeks. Stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Whether or Not. It's time to talk about the warmth. What's going to happen here over the next couple of days? We are looking at these warm temperatures. That's something that we've been advertising, at least for the past week, saying that once we get into February, these temperatures will start to warm. We're still seeing signs of that as we go over the next couple of days. Thursday's looking like the warmest day of the work week, and then we'll see how warm we get into this weekend, and we can have another quick hit of some warm weather as we get into early next week, where I'm just looking off screen. I'll probably bring you that information too, suggesting that Tuesday, a forecast high of 59. So we'll see if Sioux Falls is able to hit 60, well into the 60s into western South Dakota. So we have some things to cover with that warmth coming through. Well, here's a look at our pattern there. There's the above average air to our north. That will continue. That's Pacific air, okay? This is a setup that we've seen many times getting into the Pacific air. We'll see that for Thursday. I mentioned these winds do increase to help mix down those warm temperatures. And just looking at the top 5 warmest days for February 5th. And anytime I bring up one of these lists, it will be a warm day. I think I've brought these up a couple of times going through the winter, and we've been able to get into that top 5, even set records on occasion. And we'll get to that forecast coming up here in just a bit. In fact, you can see that graphic. I stopped it before it goes full, but that graphic will eventually come out with a look at what we have running for today's forecast on Thursday. But the top 5 warmest in Sioux Falls, the record is 59. That happened twice. You see 57 is the record in Aberdeen, 61 in Pierre, and 67 for downtown Rapid City. And you see it happened in 1963, as well as at 59 in 1963 for Sioux Falls. So let me go ahead and hit the button. Let this graphic come in as we are forecasting 50 in Sioux Falls. So right now, that will keep us out of the top 5. We'll see if that number warms. 48 in Aberdeen, that will be our new 5, our new top 5 there at 48. Right now we have to hit 47 to tie it. In Pierre, 55, that will end up tying for 4th. And Rapid City, mentioned downtown Rapid City with that 68, that will end up setting a record. So we'll follow that. In fact, let me go ahead and bring up, it's always fun to do, just doing this stuff on the fly. But let me go ahead and bring up this computer model. Now, this is a look at the European deterministic. So this is only one run of the computer model here. So there's our 49, and we have 50 going for Thursday. But look at this. I mentioned this. I haven't shown it, but I mentioned this. Monday, Tuesday, Monday's high at 56, Tuesday's high at 59. I think we had a model somewhere from what I saw this morning, and I probably should have taken my notebook out as I have that written down, that one of these models putting the number, I think at least one's trying to throw out a 60-degree reading. Can't find it offhand at the moment. But this is the one that I do like to look at the most here. We'll change the time frame there. There's that 59 for Tuesday. And then it does fall on the 11th. Remember yesterday I was trying to bring in some snow chances around the 11th. Maybe that was a couple of days ago. Still wants to knock down the temperature, but the European, I know, doesn't want to bring in that snow. And that's something we'll talk about coming up with our weather pattern. And then we're back in the 40s and 50s. As we hit Valentine's Day, it wants to give us a high of 50. As we take a look at the precipitation here, now this goes out until the 13th. Very, very minor. Mention the chances for snow showers today. It stays less than a half inch in Sioux Falls if we're able to get any accumulation out of it. Tries to give us another hit of, or at least, a hint, well, not a hit, but a hint, we'll say, of precipitation as we do get into tomorrow. That's probably during the morning, those morning flurries. That's very, very light as well, and then it just keeps us dry as we warm, and then we'll stay warm. Tries to bring in at least a little bit of moisture there on the 11th, and a couple of days ago, suggesting that we can see snow during that time. I want to bring in the AI. This is, let's do the Euro AI and the 2-meter temperature run here. So again, you're looking at these model comparisons since, the turn of the month there, February 1st. And then you can see how it keeps this cold air in place. Okay, that's fine. And then we'll eventually get into this light blue. Those are temperatures in the middle 30s to middle 40s. And that's been rather consistent to bring that in for Thursday. Now, this number is not quite as warm. It has 42 for a temperature Thursday, and then it keeps us in the middle to upper 30s. There's another 40 that comes in for the first half of the weekend, and then I think warmest here is 49. 49 is Monday of next week. So this model is a little cooler, but even as we look at the extended information here, it keeps us in the 30s. That's a little bit above average. What does it do for snow chances? Well, there's our light snow for today and tomorrow, and then it brings it in around the 12th, so it's a little delayed from the other model that I showed you, and then maybe around the middle of the month. Now, this is when we do have that colder air coming. You see this back here? This last value, it says 3.5. That is around the 17th. Now, that's rather interesting because I did notice this morning as I was looking at information that the European model, the regular European, the deterministic, and the Euro AI were agreeing on bringing something in on the 17th. And I think I might have something to illustrate that as well. But let's keep this snow theme going here. This is a look at our snow so far this season. You see Sioux Falls is coming in at 22.8 for the season, and Watertown's a little bit less than that, approaching 21 inches. And you see Aberdeen's close at about 2 feet. Now, this is for the whole year or the season so far. So we'll watch these numbers as well. And I did predict that snowfall amounts will end up being a little bit below average. We still have a lot of time to go. We have all the way through the month of April. So we'll see what ends up happening. But what started out with getting these snowfalls in November, December, pushing us well above average. As I look at our climate stats right now for the season, Sioux Falls is 2 inches below average for the season so far. And we really don't see much snow coming through, at least for the next week to week and a half. Sure, we could have a flurry, snow shower. You can add 1/10 of an inch, maybe 2/10 of an inch. But I think by the time we do hit mid-February, we can be below average, I don't know, by 4, maybe 5 inches below. So we'll see, because it steadily adds up. You get about 1/3 of an inch, and it adds up per day is what the climate's trying to point us toward when you talk about snowfall. And you see the amounts of snow there in the central and western South Dakota, well below average. Rapid City at 7.7. Let me bring in their information. I'll use the downtown. Yep, 7.7 downtown. That is more than 2 feet below where they should be for this time of year. So usually they're around 22.5. The number that Sioux Falls has are close to that. So they are well below average when you look at the climate stats for snowfall so far this season. Let's see, what's the next graphic that I have in here? I think I might have been working on that one. The next graphic is to talk about the climate averages for the month of February in Sioux Falls. And we'll talk more about that after the break. Stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Weather or Not. We'll talk about our February climate stats for Sioux Falls, and I probably should put some together for other cities as well. Let's start with daylight. Beginning of the month, total for daylight, close to 10 hours. But here we are. We're past, the winter solstice here, so we'll continue to add daylight. And as you can see, as we get into February 14th, the midway point through the month of February, we're up to about 10.5 hours of daylight. So we add a little more than 30 minutes of daylight for the first 2 weeks of the month. Well, what happens during the second half of the month? Goes up to a little more than 11 hours of daylight. And from the 14th through the 28th, we're close to adding 40 minutes. It's probably something that You may have noticed if you've been outdoors, especially later in the day, that we are slowly adding daylight. And you can also tell that the sun angle is getting a little better than what it was just a month ago. So that sun angle is helping us out with a little bit more direct sunlight. It also helps that eat away some of this snow and ice pack. Even though we don't get those temperatures to be above freezing, we use the sun's radiation. I even noticed that yesterday going through the cloud cover, able to get, a couple of areas there with some snow, maybe on the streets, able to melt at least a little bit of that. And if it's not melting, it's probably drying out too. But for the whole month of February, we had close to an hour and 15 minutes of daylight. And of course, that continues to add up as we get into the month of March. Now, for climate stats for Sioux Falls, climate average high, we start at 28 and we end the month at 37. The low goes from 9 to 18. I also bring in the precipitation. Now, the climate precipitation stays less than an inch, 0.83. Snowfall, I believe right now, these are averages going back from 1990 to 2010. So it's a 30-year, 1990 to 2020. So it is a 30-year trend there. So the climate snow is a little bit more than 8.5 inches. That's actually second now for snowiest months in Sioux Falls. That's an interesting stat considering February is the shortest month out of the year, but when you look at the climate stats, it's coming in second place when you look at the snowfall. Now, the all-time record for coldest temperature in Sioux Falls, it happened in February, 42 below, February 9th, 1899. And February is known for these big temperature swings, too. The warmest is 70, and that happened, well, let's count them up here. 1, 2, 3, 4 times, February 17th, the 22nd, 23rd, and the 26th. So 70 is like the ceiling that we have for the warmest temperature in Sioux Falls. There's a chance that Rapid City can hit 70 later this week. On Thursday, they'll have to watch that number. Right now, we're forecasting that high at 68. So that's interesting to see. We go from a record low of 42 below to a record high of 70 during the month of February in Sioux Falls. And again, that 70 that 70 has been hit 4 times in the month since records have been kept. Not much precipitation to really speak of. I know we're only in this maybe a couple of days, but Aberdeen able to record 0.03 of an inch of precipitation. And you look at that departure, and as I mentioned before, we average about 1/3 of an inch of snowfall per day for Sioux Falls in February. So that slowly starts to add up. And you see the departure from average here. We're about 0.05 of an inch in many locations for the month. So we'll continue to follow that because very limited moisture will be around for the first half of February. And then when you're talking temperatures that will be well above average, especially in the western South Dakota, you'll have to watch for fire danger with any of these days that we get these winds to start to pick up. Stay with us after the break. We'll talk about our weather pattern. You're watching Weather or Not. Time to go out about a week and a half, maybe even 2 weeks for our pattern ahead. Been mentioning that going out a week will keep these temperatures above average for many of us in KELOLAND, and then slowly tries to break down as we get into the middle of the month. So this is what we're looking at. There's Thursday, well above average. We'll see how much of that continues into the weekend. It will be a warm weekend. Right now, does not look to be as warm as what's expected for Thursday. But we'll see what happens Monday, Tuesday. Those were the days that I was showing you with the computer model suggesting temperatures may touch 60 in Sioux Falls. So that's a trend that we will continue to follow. A couple of days ago, I know it was trying to bring in much colder air around the 11th of February. That has certainly changed. It's pushing it back until we get into maybe the second half of the month. I stopped it here on the 17th, and I've been showing you this low pressure system. I know I had it yesterday, and the model's trying to agree with it again today. Instead of throwing it in northern Minnesota, it settles into central Iowa. So the placement of this is a little bit farther south. We'll see how much moisture gets wrapped up in this, because set up like this, it can open up the Gulf, bring in some moisture with it. We'll see what happens with our precipitation chances as we get into, well, the 17th of February. That's where some of the model data is suggesting that we can see precipitation to eventually fall into our area, which will be needed. We need that precipitation. It's been very dry lately, and we're watching these temperatures warm that I talked briefly about, that fire danger that can easily come back. The European model is still trying to point to something around the 11th. That's why I stopped it where I did. For now western into northern South Dakota, while it keeps the east and southeast dry until we hit the 17th, and then it tries to fill it in with our snow chance. What does the American model do? Well, I stopped it here on Tuesday the 10th, so next week, but it still wants to fill it in around the 11th of February. So we don't have that agreement there between the American and the European model of what exactly to do in that extended forecast as we are looking at snow chances. But first, I do want to break down this heat, and eventually we will. It's just a matter of when that happens, and then we'll see with our chances for precipitation. But before that happens, expect mostly dry conditions, and a lot of these days will end up being well above average. That's our time for now on Weather or Not. Thank you for joining us. Have yourself a good day.